Alright, we're recording.
Yeah, I might have to get up at some point to soothe the baby.
Well, just lead in with the whole episode with that.
Well, if I suddenly stop talking and disappear, that's what happened.
Alright, this is Hinterland's one-shot episode 6. We've been tardy in releasing a new episode in the one-shot series. Because video games are really easy to do podcasts about, and the news hasn't been that great. Lots of talk about AG Bar, and that gets real boring to me. So I haven't really had anything to say, but there's been 2 recent articles that just popped up in our Twitter feeds, which are intriguing and relevant to us because we're Christians and we're into weird news and strange happenings. So the first one that we want to get to is this article that first came out on Clover Chronicle. I don't know what that is. It says it's a website that claims to tell the truth. During times of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act.
Yeah, we haven't looked into it.
Yeah, well, I read the original post. So anyway, I'll read the title of this article. Whistleblower from RUAG, a Swiss aerospace and defense company, warns of impending asteroid impact that will affect whole world. Take this article with a humongous grain of salt. One would say a boulder of salt. Because it comes from 4chan, apparently, or some sort of 4chan archive backup website. But it got my brain going, and I thought, what if this is the end? What if it really is the end? We're finally going to get that huge impact that the doomsday soothsayer scientist people have always told us we're going to get. The entire eastern seaboard is going to just get washed out, and millions of people are going to die from a huge tsunami that will wipe out a quarter of the world's population. And in the next month after that, another quarter is going to die from starvation and blah, 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 blah. We've all heard the stories. So apparently this is it. This appears to be, after looking into it, it appears to just be a really fancy chain letter type post. They call them LARPs.
Is that what that is?
Yeah. That's what I believe it is. Although it's very well written. It definitely seems scary enough. But since this person didn't come out on anything more official than 4chan, and it's an anonymous post. He claims to be from the RUAG, but so could I. In an anonymous post, I could claim to be anyone I wanted. You know what I mean? I could claim to be stinking Jack Dorsey, and who would tell me a different, you know? They don't know. Maybe Jack Dorsey does do anonymous posts on 4chan. Anyway, I can read some of it. It is quite alarming. It says, "This is not a joke. I'm working for RUAG, a Swiss aerospace and defense company. I'm part of a team providing equipment and software to government bodies. Earth is about to get showered with multiple large asteroids. Every government knows about it. It's a known open secret." And it goes on to detail how you need to get bottled water and stay away from the cities and on and on and on. But I got to thinking, this comes up now and again. And there's always been a certain contingency of conspiracy-minded and prophecy-minded people who believe that a planetoid or asteroid or star is going to come near Earth and disrupt everything. You may have heard of the planet Nibiru, which is, I believe it's been long debunked. Zachariah Sitchin was really good at selling books. And as far as I know, not that great at translating ancient Sumerian, even though he claimed to be this professor, this scholar in that language. And then there was this lady in the 90s who came out and said that, no, it's Planet X. And Planet X is going to do this and this and this. And I was told this by aliens from Zeta Reticuli. Yeah, but then the date that she said it was going to come and do its thing came and went, and she had this fantastical reason why it didn't happen.
Was that just a couple years ago?
In the 90s.
Oh.
And then, of course, 2012, everybody claimed that 2012 was going to be, the galactic ley lines are going to line up, and the procession of the planets are going to line up, and it's going to cause this crazy cataclysmic problem because of the Mayan calendar, and on and on and on. That never happened. So all these things come up and they never happen. The one that I may ascribe a small amount of credence to is the Wormwood prophecy, because it's in the Bible and it seems really scary, and I prefer to take a lot of Bible prophecy as literally as possible, because if you interpret all of them as allegorical or poetic or whatever, that's a problem, because so many of them, if you read the Old Testament 2,500 years ago and you took all those literally, you knew exactly what to look for when Jesus came, because he fulfilled a whole bunch of them literally. They weren't just allegorical. They didn't allude to what was going to happen. You could just read them and then apply them to this guy who was born of a virgin and then died on a cross. All these things that happened to him, and just look at the prophecies. They tell you exactly what's going to happen. So, it's scary to think about, but if you apply that same reasoning to Revelation, and you read these prophecies that talks about Wormwood, it gets really scary. So, I pulled them up, and we're actually going to read the Bible for once in our podcast. Mm-hmm. How weird is that? So I'll just read, I got them out of order, but I'll read these two verses that reference it. This first one is Revelation 6:12 through 17. This is the Christian Standard Bible. It says, "Then I saw him open the sixth seal. A violent earthquake occurred. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of hair. The entire moon became like blood. The stars of heaven fell to the earth as a fig tree drops its unripe figs, then when shaken by a high wind. The sky was split apart like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved from its place. Then the kings of the earth, the nobles, the generals, the rich, the powerful, and every slave and free person hid in the caves and among the rocks of the mountains. And they said to the mountains and to the rocks, 'Fall on us and hide us from the face of the one who seated on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb, because the great day of their wrath has come, and who is able to stand?'" And then the next reference is Revelation 8:10 through 11. "The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star blazing like a torch fell from heaven. It fell on a third of the rivers and springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood, and a third of the waters became wormwood. So many of the people died from the waters because they had been made bitter." And a lot of people theorize that this is nuclear war. It would make sense because you can't drink irradiated water. And there's a spot in Africa where if nuclear war were to happen, it would poison... Oh no, pardon me. It's if you watch the I think they actually reference it in the new Mission Impossible Fallout. If you poison a certain part of water in the earth, it damages billions of people, because it's like the headwaters for all these rivers that feed people, you know. And so if you cause nuclear fallout to happen in certain places of the world, you just poisoned everyone, and all the water is worthless. You can't drink it; you'll die. So that's one of the theories, but taken literally, this is, many stars from heaven falling. And I looked up and read quite a bit from this one dude who claims that there's only one thing that really fits the bill for what it could be, and it's like a dwarf planet. It's a lot smaller than Earth. It's kind of like a moon, because it has to be able to break into many pieces and still land on Earth. So that is actually a size of planetoid of a specific size. It's not huge, because there's a theory called Planet 7X, because it's a planet that's 7 times the size of Earth, And that guy claims that it comes by every 3,600 years or whatever, and it gets near Earth, and that's what screws up all the volcanoes.
Okay, now I thought that was Nibiru.
Right. All those theories kind of fit into the same thing. Mm-hmm. So...
I also thought that was theorized to be the star that was seen on...
right, exactly. They try and fit it into this biblical narrative. But I think that's personally, and this is all spitballing, but I personally think that that's a result of, what did you say, if you're looking for the evidence, you're going to find it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're kind of forcing the Bible narrative to fit their theory rather than the other way around. Because they also claim Joshua's long night and the moon turning black when Jesus...
darkness falling over Egypt.
Darkness fell over Egypt, on and on and on. There's like 10 different things in the Bible. The flood, the biblical flood, it was all caused by this thing that comes by every 3,600 years.
Yeah, obviously not.
Right. It's a little much to attribute to this thing in the sky that no one's seen before. But back to back up and go back to our original post, this guy on 4chan. I did a little digging around, and the post claims that if you can read between the lines, it's obvious they've been reporting about this for a while. What it's referencing is recently they did a test. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? They did a drill, basically, it involved NASA and the European Space Agency and FEMA. They actually did a drill on May 1st that involved a theoretical event of a near-Earth object, like an asteroid specifically, coming and hitting Earth and impacting Earth. And NASA has a thing called a DART, which stands for Double Asteroid Redirection Test. Sorry, my handwriting is scribbly. And it's a real thing. It's basically a rocket that slams into an asteroid to redirect it with kinetic energy away from Earth to save us. They've tested it. In fact, they have one out there right now headed towards the Didymos asteroid, or rather a little like moon asteroidette, little itty bitty asteroid that hangs out with it. Mm-hmm. They actually have a satellite headed toward it right now to test it, and they're going to observe what happens when they slam something into it to see if they can use it as a practical defense for Earth. So this is kind of the basis for this guy coming out and saying it. He's like, "Oh, just read between the lines. It's going to happen." And this, by the way, audience, is supposed to happen Monday, in 2 days. So we're all going to die in 2 days. We're going to be running for the hills, according to the Bible. We're going to be running to the hills, finding the caves, the rich, the poor.
Not everyone. Monday, according to the Bible, according to this guy on 4chan.
Right, well, if you fit it in with the prophecy. Right, so the guy I was reading yesterday, he talked about his reasoning for believing that none of this will happen for the next 5 or 6 years anyway, and it has to do with Sabbath years, and there's a lot of digging through prophecy, Daniel's 70th week, on and on and on. We won't get into those weeds, but he's convinced that nothing's going to happen for at least 5 years. But I do believe we're in the end times. I think we're getting really close to the end here. Within the next 10 years, 15 years, we're going to see some crazy, crazy stuff happen.
Yeah, there was a red heifer born in Israel, though. That might have been fake.
I had heard that, and I'm not real well versed in the... Actually, I'm not versed at all in the prophecies that mention the red heifer. I think that's a Judaism prophecy. Is it even mentioned in
I don't know. I just remember when I saw the article, it said, "Oh, it's a prophecy thing." So
yeah, the red heifer's a big deal. So I believe it's part of prophecies that mention
Messiah.
No, it mentions the third temple.
Oh.
Right, so things can't happen until the third temple is built, but the third temple can't be built until a red heifer appears. I think that's... Nobody take this as truth until you go look for yourself, because it may be way off base. But I believe that's what that references. So you can't have one without the other. So now, if there has been a red heifer, people are now dry washing their hands because the third temple, they're always talking about it. I've read in numerous places that the Donald Trump saying that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel and moving the embassy there is a huge marker for biblical prophecy, and it could be the beginning of building the third temple, which is another marker for Jesus coming back. It's a big deal. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Oh, and just as an aside, I wrote down in my notes. I said we all know what happens during drills, the actual event, and so that was, if they're running drills on this hypothetical thing, then that might indicate that it's going to actually happen, because that's what always happens.
Not always. It's happened a few times. It's
happened enough times to be a spooky coincidence. Let's say that.
And I feel like there have been more than ones you wrote down. You wrote down Christchurch shooting, the Parkland shooting, and 9/11. But I feel like there have been more.
There are, but my brain wasn't bringing them forth for me. I didn't bother to search it out. So anyway, that's one of two things I want to talk about. Comments? Suggestions?
No.
Questions?
No. I'm the one who sent you the link on in the next part, but I didn't get a chance to actually read any of these things because I was working on something else. So
yeah, this next one is interesting to us as Christians again, but when you dig into the article, you find out this dude was a real bonehead. And it bothers me when I'll just come right out and say what we're talking about. Why am I beating around the bush here?
You're trying not to make clicky sounds with the mouse.
I know. Well, I don't have a mouse, so it's fine. The title of this next article is on the New York Post. The title is Oxford Professor Believes Alien Human Hybrid Species Will Save Earth, which is just clickbaity, puff piece idiocy to draw people to their website. That's pretty much all this is, because this guy has no authority at all. And there are ufologists over there. UFOologists?
I don't know.
There are people who study UFOs, and they study aliens, and they make entire careers out of it, because there's a lot there. There's a lot of weirdness out in it. This is not one of those guys. This is a professor of Korean language, I believe. That's all he teaches. He teaches Korean. He's part of an Asian studies sector of Oxford.
It says Dr. Young Hae Chi is an instructor in Korean at Oxford's Oriental Institute.
Yeah, so he's not an authority on aliens. He's just he has this random theory. And I have to wonder, as a Christian, if he's influenced by some sort of
he's probably
spirit.
He's probably just looking for a meaning in his life aside from religion.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder if he's an atheist.
Well, and he's glommed on to climate change.
Yeah.
With this.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It seems like he's got an agenda, and his agenda is climate change.
Well, so part of his theory is that aliens are here to influence us away from destroying the Earth, or to stop us from destroying the Earth, which is... it's been the topic of so many science fiction TV shows.
Yes, we're too stupid to fix our own problems.
Humanity's destroying each other.
Right. We're evil, we're bad, therefore we need help from an outside source who is benign and knows much better than us.
Which, how come the aliens aren't seen as the bad guys for doing that when that happens, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, you could do a perfect, if you really want to get into a political leg of this. People, I know, people always blame America for bringing freedom to people, which is a euphemism for bringing war to some other country who is doing fine.
Let's be fair.
That's the same thing as aliens are doing.
Be fair. Other countries were already at war. We usually come in and the big brother.
We come in and choose a side and end it.
But when it's the aliens trying to stop us from destroying each other, then it's fine.
They're the good guys because they know better than us. Yeah. What did I write down? It says it's actually in this article at the end here. It talks about mentions that they're the ones who are smart enough to come in and help us. He actually mentions it. Quote, I don't think they are from far away. They're just next to us. Oh, that's not the right quote. Pardon me.
Are you sure? Because you're talking about interdimensional beings instead of intergalactic.
He talks about how they're here, we just can't see them, and they're insect-like. Well, how does he know? Because we can't see them.
Smoking some good drugs.
Yeah, he may be on some... He may have hit the... He's doing more than microdosing. Let's say that. He's doing the LSD microdosing, but he's doing a little more than micro.
Well, not necessarily what you were getting at earlier with spiritual influences. There are a lot of Christians nowadays who don't seem to take anything in the Bible literally. They seem to think that even the miracles Jesus performed were just exaggerations or used to teach a lesson. But clearly, there are spiritual influences in the world. Clearly, demons existed in the Bible, and they exist today. But, toddler's awake.
Is there a toddler here?
Yes. We can probably finish as long as he doesn't start chatting at us. So I think it's perfectly plausible that this guy has actually seen demons and mistaken them for interdimensional aliens.
Yeah, I mean, if they're scary bug-like people, too. I'll just read this one paragraph and then we'll wrap up here. Okay. Yet, despite their primitive appearances, Chi and said the ETs are highly intelligent, as, too, are their half-human offspring, and therefore are the only creatures smart enough to tackle planetary problems such as climate change and nuclear disaster. So this guy's scared of nuclear fallout and climate change, and he's using alien hybrids as his gateway to entitle the masses to help themselves.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking this is going to have to turn into a 2-part because there's more to talk about.
Oh yeah,
we're going to talk about notes.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Nephilim in the next one. It'll be part 2.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for listening. This is Hinterlands One Shot. Email us at thehinterlandsmedia@gmail.com and go to the website at www.hinterlandsmedia.com and go to our Twitter at hinterlandsfeed. That's it.
Bye.
Bye.